say, okay, I'm sorry. Bang, bang, bang. No, I'm not.
Palm strike, hammer fist, wah, elbow. You need to be the one to strike first. Using deception is a good way to do that. I'm sure if Bas was here listening to me say this, he'd spit in my face and tell me to shut my little boy mouth. Today, I'm gonna be reacting to some footage of Bas Rutten, some of his interviews, some of his street fighting tips, and some of his ring fights as well. If you want to get more information on what you should be doing before the fight actually happens in relation to the more soft kind of skills, I often get questions asking me, hey Matt, tell me more about the soft skills. Tell me more about what I should be doing before the fight actually happens. If you want to get answers to those kind of questions, then definitely watch the rest of this video because we're going to do a lot of that in here. All right, let's get on with the video. But before we do, this video is sponsored by my patrons. They make it possible for me to put out 2 high-quality videos every single week. So thank you to everyone on there. Now, let's get into it.
Bang, bang, bang. Everybody underestimates the kick in the groin. Boom, that's the first thing to do. I follow up, bang, bang, bang. Right away after that, dang. See what I'm doing? Boom, that's the left elbow right there. I can also deliver, bang, headbutt out of nothing. Boom, the right elbow, bring right straight. Maybe now the headbutt comes. Knee to the face. And look what we got here. Smack his face.
All right, so what he's actually talking about here is a way to stand while someone is in your face and trying to start a confrontation with you, trying to instigate an attack on your physical body before they've actually started to physically assault you. So what he's essentially talking about is when we have someone in front of us trying to start some crap, we want to try to do our best to make sure our hands are up. And we obviously don't want to be standing up with our hands up like this, because if we have our hands up like this, then it looks like we're clearly ready to fight. So instead, what he's essentially advocating for here is to stand in this kind of thinking man pose, because in this thinking man position, we can easily cover our face immediately if someone comes in for an attack. And we also have a couple of options open to us in relation to a preemptive strike. One of these options is obviously just the straight palm coming out. Another one of these options would be a boom back fist, or boom with the forearm. Or as he pointed out in this video, you can kind of do a turn while I load up my right hip while I'm thinking, and then on my way back, whoa, come through with that elbow. Palm strike, hammer fist, wah, elbow. Got a lot of stuff from there, and your hands are also up ready to protect yourself as well.
Smack his face. Create distance and grab a chair. You can slam it into his face. You can stab with it. And while I throw it at him, I will kick him in the groin, boom, right straight.
Fun fact, I actually did a video testing how effective using a chair is against a knife. If you want to see that video, go ahead and click up here.
Don't you ever do this. Right away you say, okay, I'm sorry. Bang, bang, bang. No, I'm not.
Now, this is comedic, but it's also actually teaching us a valuable lesson in relation to deception for self-defense. If someone is in our face trying to begin an instigation, we have a couple of ways we can try to deal with that. Option number 1 is essentially to say, hey, back off, I don't want to fight you today, get away from me or else. But if I kind of do this back off movement, really the way they're going to interpret this in relation to the way their ego interprets it is going to be as a challenge. They're going to see it as something they have to overcome, and they're probably going to keep on pushing you. Specifically referring to man on man in a pub kind of brawl situation, that is anyway. And more importantly, in this scenario, what they're looking for is the option or the ability to convince themselves that you are someone who is deserving of violence, to convince themselves that you are, in fact, the bad guy in their own story, because everyone is the good guy in their own story, right? So what we need to try to do in this situation is, 1, give them a moral and ethical way out of the situation. We need to try to determine whether or not this is a de-escalatable situation. One way we can do this is by essentially making ourselves appear as non-threatening as possible. So, hey, look man, I don't want any trouble, I don't want to fight, all the usual de-escalation stuff. You guys don't need me to tell you that. Basically just telling them, hey, I don't want to fight you, I'm not going to engage in this kind of ego battle. Now, if we present ourselves in this way long enough and continue to try to de-escalate, a lot of the time they'll go away. But if they don't, and we're trying to de-escalate over a relatively long period of time, and they're still coming at us with a pretty high level of aggression, either emotional or physical, then we can essentially come to the conclusion that this is going to go one of 3 ways. Either 1, I'm going to hit him first. Either 2, he's going to hit me first. Or either 3, none of us are going to hit each other. Now, if we've given them the moral and ethical way out of the situation, we can rule out that 3rd option, that none of us are going to hit each other. So now it's a matter of, are we going to hit him or is he going to hit us? And out of these 2 options, we want to be the one who hits first. So essentially what we do in this situation is we say, hey, I don't want to fight, I don't want any problems. If they keep being aggressive, if we pick up on the fact that they are in fact going to strike us first, we use deception to convince them we're not a threat, and then what? Who wants to say it? Do you know, anyone gonna say it? I'll say it. We hit him real hard in the face. And I really want to reiterate there that the key is to determine that they are in fact going to hit you. So it's not like they come up to you and then you say, I don't want any trouble, and you just crack them right away. No, you have to actually determine that they are going to attack you. So you need to genuinely give them a chance to be de-escalated and not just kind of like say, I don't want any trouble once and then immediately attack them. Because I think at that point it's assault. Because whenever I say something like this, people always give me comments that say something to the effect of, Matt, we can't just go around hitting everyone who looks at us wrong. I'm not saying to do that. I'm saying to genuinely give this person a moral and ethical way out of the situation, but then when they don't take it, when they continue to show signs that they're going to physically attack you, you need to be the one to strike first. So, you know, don't hit babies who look at you wrong. Don't hit old people. Don't hit anyone just who kind of gives you bad vibes. Only if you genuinely think you are in danger, you need to be the one to strike first. Using deception is a good way to do that.
And he comes in, boom, front kick, boom, boom, simultaneously, the elbow in the head, grab his wrist, grab your own wrist, and bend his arm. I control him, you see? Knee in the head, I can bounce him against the wall, everything I want to do.
Now I am a little bit conflicted here because Bas is one of the men who inspired me most as a child when I was getting bullied. You know, he was bullied, he had this terrible skin condition where he could go out and kids would pick on him, but he eventually got really strong and he fought back and he hunted down his bullies and he made them all pay for it. Now he's a real tough dude. So it's very difficult for me to say that I don't think what he's talking about here is actually going to be all that effective. Maybe he could pull it off because he's Bas Rutten, but this is certainly not something that I would train, nor is it something that I think would be overly effective. The reason for this is as follows. In order for this knife defense tactic to be pulled off, the person with a knife, that's going to be me in this situation, has to essentially come overhead and then leave it there for a few seconds before they come back. But realistically, when people are attacking you with a knife, it's a very quick and very cyclical motion. So there's not a lot of time to kind of, because by the time you go, they've already retracted and they're attacking again. And granted, you can launch into it and then follow them back and then try to get it, but I still find it's really hard to pull off and not something that's worth putting a lot of time and effort into just because it is something that doesn't have an overly high chance of success. That's in my experience. I'm sure if Bas was here listening to me say this, he'd spit in my face and tell me to shut my little boy mouth, but you know, that's just my honest thoughts on the thing, and I wouldn't recommend training that particular tactic.
We grab, but just to make sure, we grab this arm also. Now we're in total control. He tried to kill me, so I gotta return it the favor. I step underneath here, and now I'm controlling him with my head, and I can stab his own knife here in the liver. Stab in the liver.
Now this was actually in the Krav Maga knife defense syllabus that we used to train at my gym when it was a traditional Krav Maga gym, and what we would find is that this would work great when we knew it was coming and we were going in slow motion, but when someone actually put you in this position, it almost never worked. So this is something that is often commonly taught, but again, it's not something I'm really a fan of and I wouldn't recommend it. Once someone has their arm wrapped around you from behind and the knife is genuinely pressing into your throat and you can feel the cold steel of the blade on your arteries right there, the last thing that you think about doing is grabbing the hand, pulling it down, going in and trying to stab them with your own knife. All of your thoughts are just like, holy crap, I'm gonna die. Don't move, someone call the police. Now that being said, sometimes I do actually try this in training. Sometimes it works out, you know, but I think the best method here, if you find yourself in this situation, is to think to yourself, what happened leading up to this situation? How the heck did I get grabbed from behind and a knife put to my throat? And what did I do to get put into that position? And I think in this situation, prevention is much better than a cure. But if you're in this position, it's really a tough situation and there's not a whole lot you can do. So I'm not gonna say this is like a bad technique, but I will say it's a bad technique if it's being taught in a way that's like, this is something that will work and this is how you get out of it very confidently, which I feel like is kind of what's happening here. Again, Bas is my idol. If he saw this video, he would just put the smack down on me. He would pick me up and turn me around inside out just with one toe. But I gotta be here and I gotta tell the truth, and if that means going against my idol from my childhood, then that's what I have to do. So I guess in essence, this is something that can kind of work sometimes, but I don't think it's worth the risk. If you actually have a knife against your throat, I would not try that, certainly. Even though I might try it in training, in real life, when that knife is there, and I know that literally the difference between life and death is this, then I'm not trying any of that fancy knife defense stuff. No, I'm gonna comply and I'm gonna wait for a better opportunity to present itself. Because at some point in time, they're gonna end up shifting their focus and better opportunity is gonna be present where you can make a much safer and statistically more likely move that is gonna more likely work when compared to this. So I think the best course of action, if you're in this, is to wait for a better opportunity and then take advantage of that when that comes about. Obviously, if he's like, I'm gonna slit your throat now, then yeah, you gotta do something. But if you find yourself in that situation, I think the best thing to do is wait for a better opportunity and then take advantage of that opportunity. Because at some point in time, their focus is going to shift to something else and an opportunity will, and more often than not, does present itself.
He's choking me and he's gonna lift me up. Huh? I'm loose. Okay. One. Kick to the knees. Or maybe a heel to the balls. Heel to the balls. And I can lean forward, and go back with a headbutt to the head, kick to the leg, heel to the groin, all the way go like this, and come back with a headbutt to the side.
Now again, in this situation, you know, you've got to try something, but once that rear naked choke is actually locked in and you can feel yourself losing consciousness, you've only got a couple of seconds, and once it's locked in, there's not a whole lot you can really do. My general course of action is to try to eliminate that hand that's on the top of the head, so you've got this hand around the throat, and then you've got this one that slides in behind and is holding that head in place. Now, people that will often end up putting you in this choke in an actual like street fight situation don't really know how to do it that well. And instead of sliding this hand behind like a kind of snake, what they end up doing is like this, and they have it on top. So my general go-to is to try to get that hand off the top of my head, bring it forward, and then that makes it a lot harder for them to choke you. But if they've locked you in and they're lifting you up off the floor, man, good luck. Good luck is all I can say. I don't really find these kind of heel kicks to, oh, you can't see my leg in there, hold on. I don't really find these heel kick things to the back, probably wasn't any better, to be overly effective because it's just hard to hit and the success rate isn't very high and people usually just kind of like, hey, don't do that. And then you got a broken neck.
Somebody's telling me that about my wife. I'm sorry, sir, but I'm gonna break your leg. I grab his toes, and then I'm gonna go like, that this knee will be shattered.
Okay, I think in this situation, we have to talk about one of the most important aspects of self-defense, and that is the ability to control your own emotions, or more importantly, control your actions and recognize that your emotions are what are causing you to want to hurt somebody. So in this situation here, someone has said something negative about this man's wife and he's got so emotionally involved that he's decided to break the man's leg. Now, we need to stop and think to ourselves, you know, this is where meditation comes into it. This is where some mindfulness practices can kind of help us in relation to not getting put in jail and gangbanged by a room full of 3 steroided up buff dudes with tattoos. Not talking from experience, just a theoretical situation. We need to stop and we need to think to ourselves, I am feeling angry right now. What is a symptom of anger? A symptom of anger is a want to cause physical harm to others. Now, am I going to allow my emotions to control me? Or am I going to control my emotions and be the bigger person and walk away? Because I think this is an interesting kind of thing that a lot of, especially younger guys that get into street fights end up having to go through and end up falling victim to. I think there's this idea of like manliness or toughness in which if we're angry, you know, it's like we gotta beat that guy up, and if we don't beat that guy up, we're a pussy. But let me just put an alternative kind of thought process to you with this one. When you feel angry and you want to beat this guy up, this is essentially you being led by your emotions. Now, are you so weak that you can't even control your actions, and the second you feel some kind of caveman instinct, you just let that take over and control you? Because to me, that's not strength, that's weakness. Strength is being able to be in full, entire control of your emotions. And I think that is a very important self-defense skill, because if we can master that, we can avoid 99% of these stupid self-defense situations where we end up breaking some guy's leg because he said something we don't like. So I guess self-defense tip 101, meditate? Crap, I don't know.
You get your arm, you break the big bang, right straight. Or he grabs it again, go out, bang, left straight.
Okay, so here, what's happening here? We have a wrist grab defense, right? Now, what is he saying we should do for a wrist grab defense? He's saying we should just hit him in the head. Now, actually, even I think that he's kind of gone a little too complex with this. I don't even think we need to break free of the wrist grab before we hit him in the face. I think we can just skip straight to the hitting them in the face part. But regardless, the general concept here, by Bas, he's saying, in order to get out of a wrist grab, hit him really hard in the face. Learn how to throw a good punch, take advantage of the optimal opportunity, ideally by using deception, and then hit them real hard in the face. We don't need all these technical, fancy wrist grab break technique.
Step to the side. This stretch. Punch. Take it down. Punch here. Kick in the groin. Kick to the face.
So I think this is actually a really good way to draw a distinction between how we train doing this kind of stuff in combatives as opposed to how we train doing this kind of stuff in mixed martial arts. So in mixed martial arts, you catch a kick, you sweep the leg, and then you have to try to work for a guard pass where you like bring your knee over their thigh and then you slowly work around. In combatives, it's literally just you sweep them, you crack them in the nuts. When you crack someone in the nuts after they've hit the floor with a good right cross, you really don't have to do a whole lot to try and pass their guard. You can pretty much just throw their legs and jump over because they're like, man, you just punched me in the doonads. So in this situation, hitting them in the nuts is often a good little cheat little boot button. But as always, you can't just rely on punching them in the nuts. You have to know how to catch the leg. You have to know how to sweep them down. You have to know what to do after you take advantage of passing the guard really easily. All that groin shot does is allow you to easily pass the guard. It doesn't allow you to automatically win the fight. Because I can already picture people typing in the comments, but Matt, you did a video on how we shouldn't just rely on kicking people in the nuts. Now you're just telling us to all kick people in the nuts. Why are you so hypocritical all the time? Why are you always hypocriting yourself? Why are you always saying stuff that you said you wouldn't say? You're a liar, you're a cheater, get out of my house, go and die in a fire. And you know, that's not what I'm saying. Just relax.
Don't do this. Don't do this. Push the gun here on his hips. Bang! You. Whoop. Whoop. No. Bang! I'm going to start hitting him. Maybe bang! Bang! 3 times.
Again, I have to say that I hate this. This is another one of the tactical Krav Maga syllabus gun defenses. The idea behind this is essentially I have someone with a gun pointing at me. I take the gun, I push it to the side, and as I push it to the side down towards the hips, I come across and simultaneously I'm pushing them back and I'm hitting with my hand. The problem with this is, right, if I'm the person with the gun, I get this push to the side. If I then fall over, it's very easy for me to fall over and just end up pointing this back at you. It happens almost all the time when they fall over. And also you don't really have that great control of the firearm from here. You've got boom, and then it's still kind of like out wild, out in the open, swinging around, and the risk of it just going in line with like your legs or your body is way too high. So I'm not really a fan of this like traditional Krav Maga syllabus gun defense. Again, I know Bas Rutten is saying it, so I should just agree with him because he's my idol, but I can't do that, you know, because I have to be, what's the word? I have to have integrity. I have to have integrity within myself and believe in my own beliefs and experience. Because if you can't believe in yourself, you know, what can you truly believe in? You hold the key to your own destiny. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. If you want to check out a playlist where I try a whole bunch of ridiculous self-defense techniques that don't work, but I try to get them to work, click on this playlist right here. It's going to be a good time. Make sure you do that. But until next time, this is Matt checking out of YouTube this particular video, not YouTube in general. All right, see ya.